Why progressives ruin. Could it possibly be that the people that Elon has decided to disseminate his Twitter files could be a bit biased?
Okay, let's start with the Twitter files. So the latest that we have here were two drops since Thursday, both from Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, who works currently with Barry Weiss's The Free Press. We wanted to start and focus really in on the Matt Taibbi thread, and in particular, what I believe to be the most significant story that's come out really of the Twitter files so far. Let's put it up there on the screen.
Hit me with it.
What was essentially revealed is that Yoel Roth, the former head of Trust and Safety, indicated in screenshots from Slack messages that he was having weekly confabs with federal law enforcement agencies,
Makes
specifically the FBI, the DHS, and the Department of Justice. And in at least one known instance, let's put A4 up on the screen there, guys. The next one. What's very important is that, and in this one instance, we know that the FBI was actually sending reports about a pair of tweets to Twitter, specifically asking for them to be taken down. Now, the tweets in question, they certainly were bullshit. I mean, they were about some fake mail-in ballot claims from the 2020 election. However, and I think that this underscores the point, it is not the job of the FBI actually to police misinformation on Twitter or elsewhere. And they were clearly flagging.
Well, that's true. It is Twitter's job to do that, though. And the DHS and the FBI saying, hey, your platform is hosting disinformation and misinformation. You should get that in line because we're the FBI and the DHS. And that's kind of how this works.
Tweets in a well-established operation, Crystal, with weekly meetings with Yoel Roth and with the head of Twitter, CEOs, and others that indicate then a pattern of trying to prepare the environment to get them to take down anything that they wanted. Now, remember also, this fits very neatly with the Mark Zuckerberg comments on Joe Rogan, in which he said that, well, you know, the FBI came to us. They told us some sort of like hack operation was coming. We thought that's what the Hunter Biden story was. We waited a couple of days. And then frankly, almost in an even more pernicious way, they just simply made it impossible to find on their platform while you could still technically click the link. They didn't go as far as Twitter. But when you put, I think, those two things together, look, did we know it? Yeah, we knew it. But to see it in stark writing, weekly messages in which he...
Okay, so let me recap, because episode 1, if I don't know if how many people are aware. So episode 1, the Hunter Biden leaks, as they're kind of built up to be, come out. The information that we gained from that was essentially there were links, photos, and accounts that were promoting and kind of what's the word? Posting nudes, or again, links to nudes, and a lot of other things that could be what's the word? Determined to be revenge porn of Hunter Biden. The Biden campaign, it's also, let's remember, this isn't the government asking this. This is a private citizen. The Biden campaign requested that tweets that involve those aspects be taken down. They were very specific in those. So, you know, I don't really see how links to websites or pages that host the nudes is really, you know, at the end of the day, that goes against Twitter's TOS. So naturally, it was mostly the Biden campaign asking them to what's the word I'm looking for? Enforce their own TOS, which nothing wrong with that. And then the other aspect of it was also, and Matt Taibbi made a point of this, but every conservative has decided that they're gonna kind of memory hole this part. But the Trump campaign did the exact same thing with certain stories pertaining to their interests. So this has been built up a lot as something nefarious. It's not really. It's quite mundane. It's private citizens. The only difference is the Trump campaign, or at least the Trump White House, part of the government. So, well, just saying.
even alludes to his quote, like secret meetings, like very special meetings, almost as if it's a joke. Actually, it's not a joke, and basically confirms something that we all knew, but now we have the proof right there in the pudding. And look, I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from the Twitter files yet.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, he jokes about he's like, oh, I'm in favor of calendar transparency, but he doesn't want to put on his calendar literally every week, meeting with the FBI again for the 100th time.
Right.
So that's not really weird, especially for a platform like Twitter, which mostly deals with communication across the internet. That's not really weird or sussy. The government has a interest in investigating and in putting pressure on companies that host dangerous material, or more specifically, misinformation and disinformation. So, I don't really see the how that's really a big deal. This really only is a scandal, I think, if you have a absolutist view of free speech, which I don't. But I guess if you do, then that would be really bad. I don't really see it as being much of a problem. Again, they're not forcing them. It is mostly requests and bringing forth evidence of like TOS policies that have been broken on their platform. So
I really want you all, however you feel about these Twitter files, however you feel about Elon Musk, however you feel about Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or Donald Trump or the deep state or any of this, I really want you to put aside your sort of ideological inclinations and imagine it's whatever president or whatever party you hate the most, who's in power. And the nefarious connection between the FBI and these social media companies that...
So understand. So I don't like this framing off the bat. Nefarious. They were requesting nudes not be circulated on their platform. That's what was happening with the Biden campaign. In terms of the FBI and the DHS, they do they do need to keep an eye on these media websites, because it's been shown that people get radicalized through these media corporations, through these social media companies and their platforms. So it is within their interest to keep an eye on that stuff.
Have so much power, and there is,
like, unless you want Twitter to turn into 4chan, which I don't know how familiar Crystal is with 4chan, but something tells me they're not very interested in FBI suggestions, which makes it the hellscape that it is.
Is no transparency around how any of this is done. This is the first real, like, sort of real-time glimpse we've gotten into how all of these things ultimately operate. So, there's been a lot of debate about, like, oh, well, they've shown a lot of right-wing examples, not about a lot of left-wing examples. To me, it really doesn't matter which...
It does. So it does, because this is the problem. Elon Musk is not releasing all the information he has. All the information that we've seen and that they're talking about in at least the first episode of the Twitter files. All of that information has been curated by Musk and by the people that he has allowed to report on it. So when we talk about transparency, there is no transparency in any of these drops. These drops are as transparent as are as nefarious as the content of them that she's claiming. Like there's nothing about these drops that are transparent whatsoever. They've already said they're being curated. So
ideological inclination is being censored. What matters is that this...
Also, is it curious that it's more right-wingers? Like, honestly, if you don't think Elon Musk is specifically picking more right-wing examples over left-wing examples, I'm sorry, I don't... It'd be one thing if he released everything on, like, I don't know, like, whatever website people release them, whatever was WikiLeaks. Yeah, if everything, all of it, 100% of it was released onto a site like WikiLeaks or somewhere that there wasn't any, it was just take all the information, I don't have any interest in it, that'd be one thing. We'd be having a different conversation. But that's not what's happened here. What's happened is it's been curated, and it's been specifically, and it's been reported on in a very specific way by people chosen to report on it that way. And there were agreements. Matt Taibbi already said that he did have to agree to certain things before Musk would show him any of this and allow him to post any of it. So there's also that. Do we know what that agreement was? You tell me. Do you know? Could it possibly be that right wing Elon Musk just so happens to only post like all right wing accounts and right wing evidence of censorship? Is that a surprise? I mean, come on.
Power exists. It's wholly unchecked, and it can be wielded against anyone, any idea, any organization at any time.
It is a private. Is it a private?
And that's the thing,
it is
as
a private
Americans,
platform.
regardless of what your ideology is, that's the thing that you should be deeply, deeply concerned about.
Yeah, and also remember, I mean, I think what really underscores this is to take it out of the Twitter files themselves and look at the most recent example, the story that Ken Klippenstein broke here on our show about the truth cops, about the Department of Homeland Security flagging things as misinformation that include the withdrawal from Afghanistan as quote unquote misinformation.
Yeah, if you're spreading misinformation about the withdrawal, then yes, that would be misinformation.
Look, and here's another Twitter file I'm waiting for. Okay, deplatforming the president, I get it. I think it was very important. I want to know a lot about COVID, about the initial lab leak blocks that were happening. Who flagged that?
So here's the problem. Sauger's making it seem, and this is the big thing. Sauger is making it seem that by the nature of them censoring misinformation, that information must itself be worthy or be true. Like be worthy of like the evidence or worthy of any of its value. Like, no, dude, like all of this is conspiracy, all of this is nonsense, but you want nonsense to be treated as actual fact, as actual as truth. You want to treat all of it as nebulous speech, even though when you do that, people can always tell one more lie. People can always make up one more thing, fabricate one more fact. But there's only so many facts you can actually wield. That's why misinformation on the internet needs to be tampered down in this kind of way. Like, you can't treat them the same, because lies will always overpower them unless you put some deference towards truth, towards facts, not towards all this. Well, I want to hear about the lab leak conspiracy. All right, then go somewhere to find out. Go to 4chan, go to wherever you go to get your conspiracies. But as the largest private platform for social communication and social media, it doesn't need a place on here. You can, they always want to play this game of like, today's conspiracy theory is tomorrow's headline, which is not anywhere near true. You've got a couple really good examples of that, but for like, how many conspiracy theories do you hear at the dinner table from some of your right-wing family members, and how many of them make sense? I'm sorry, but this is equalizing way too many things that aren't equal.
What the ongoing meetings were between Dr. Fauci, the CDC, and others. Also turns out that Fauci's daughter actually worked for Twitter at a time during the pandemic. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that. Would have been an interesting act of journalism.
Was it during?
For somebody to flag that for us. We only know it
was she there? Wait. You didn't say she was there when the pandemic was happening. You said worked there at some point. Go back. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm...
Between Dr. Fauci, the CDC, and others. Also turns out that Fauci's daughter actually worked for Twitter at a time during the pandemic.
At a time.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Would have been an interesting act of journalism for somebody to flag that for us. We only know it because he was deposed.
So Twitter was working closely with Fauci to stop COVID misinformation, which would lead to the deaths of millions, and did lead to the deaths of millions. How many people didn't take the vaccine? How many people were like fucking around thinking they could take hydroxychloroquine. Like, these things have consequences. We can't play this game of like, anyway, let's just keep going. It's ridiculous.
Posed in a lawsuit. So, that's actually, there's a lot happening here. And then furthermore, from the misinformation piece that Ken Klippenstein put out, it shows you also that they were flagging things which were directly bad politically for the Biden administration.
Right.
Like not just Afghanistan, but
they also flagged things that were bad. Okay. We already found that. We already learned that the Trump administration, the government, by the way, was also requesting for things to be taken down, things to be flagged. This was not a one-sided campaign.
Any sort of, not even questioning on the election, on Biden and criticism of him himself, flagging that to these social media companies. And we know in this instance that Twitter was, in some cases, flagging and taking things down on behalf of the DOJ and the FBI. I also think a lot of this, Crystal, stems back to the war on terror. And I think all of us have to be honest, me specifically.
Oh, I hate this. Because it always comes back to trying to like launder it through a war on terror. What's the word? Hysteria. The war on terror was a abject failure. Like we all recognize that. But I am already so sick of hearing right-wingers specifically talk about how the war on terror and the tactics that we used against terrorists abroad are suddenly going to be used against American citizens and all this censorship and all that. Like, guys, that's not what happens. You say untrue bullshit on Twitter, they're going to they're going to de-emphasize you in the algorithm because you're just spreading misinformation, especially when you're spreading misinformation that goes against terms of service. This isn't hard at the end of the day. Also, we already learned that, again, they keep making it about like Biden. You don't think that the Trump White House did this? Fun fact, we know for a fact that they did. They also had requests for things be taken down, which were also, abided by. So let's not,
Great point.
Look, I mean, I think a lot of us were okay with the idea that the FBI was working deeply with Twitter to like take down ISIS, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a good thing." We're taking down these
because
tweets.
ISIS is
well,
bad.
It started to get real sketchy in 2016, 2017, when we were straight up going after American citizens, and the FBI was basically working with them to essentially entrap them and put them in prison. Most people,
which is bad. Are we equalizing and trapping like citizens for suspected ISIS ties with you just getting your tweet deleted? Is that really the level of like delusion we're working with here? Like, it's a tweet. Chill your ass out. Twitter isn't real life. Like, holy shit.
People were fine with that, but people like Glenn and many
platform.
other civil libertarians were like, you don't understand the apparatus which is being built here. And I think many of us need to admit that what happened there, while it seemed comfortable, those people and the illegal infrastructure that was set up.
Also, the information and all the misinfo I know I'm pausing a lot, I'm really sorry, but also the misinformation that they're even referencing in any of like the like nonsense conspiracy theories, you can go on the internet and find that stuff. They just don't want it on Twitter. You like that's it. That like, you're complaining because you can't buy a product, because you can't buy fucking hockey sticks in Macy's. They don't sell that here. Like, you don't have a right to anything on whatever site. I don't get to go to the Nike website and bitch and moan because they don't have fucking, I don't know, what does Nike not do? They do clothes. What's not clothes? They don't fucking do, I don't know. Shit, do they sell scissors? They don't manufacture scissors or some shit. Like you can go get your misinfo somewhere else. You don't have a right for it to be on any single platform. That's not how this works. They're private platforms. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not the town square. Sorry, it's just not. It's not a public space.
Up against them, that has now come to be expanded in a way that nobody predicted.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people, and I will include myself in this, who felt very uncomfortable with that power that was being claimed by the executive branch under the Bush administration, and felt a lot more comfy with it under Obama, because I liked him better. And so I felt like, oh, well, this is
Crystal, you don't need to you don't need to play the game of dumb liberal. It's fine. Like, yes, that was stupid. You should have recognized that from the start. Like,
isn't as bad, and you sort of forget that they still retained those powers. I mean, think about Obama and the drone strike list and all of those things. So this really isn't a partisan story, because every president that we have had has basically claimed these powers and used them for their own benefit. So again, to use another sort of like counter example, right? These examples, yes, they focus on censorship predominantly of right-wing accounts, which again, I think you should care about, because you should know that this power can be wielded against anyone at any time.
Yeah, it's okay.
But imagine what Trump could have done with these sorts of powers during the George Floyd protests and riots. And we know that there was, and this is again reporting from Ken Klippenstein.
You don't think they tried? I'm sorry. If Crystal Ball does not think that the Trump administration was not requesting for misinformation about the George Floyd incident to be, to be either prioritized or be allowed to spread on their platform unabated, if you don't think, examining the entire election enforcement slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist. We were told they do. However, they were absent here. So again, I'm going to point out, and keep this in your mind whenever you read these, they were not given 100% free access. Everything that they've been given has been curated by Musk and Musk's team. So keep that in mind. The fact that people are telling them this stuff exists, but it wasn't in what you were given, that should make you skeptical of this. Not that it didn't happen, but why this is the only frame and this is the only angle that they want to take.
We know there was an effort within the deep state to sort of track and surveil
the deep state.
Antifa activists. There were some takedowns of those accounts on Twitter as
under
well. So
the
again,
Trump administration,
you don't find
like he definitely did. Like he definitely engaged in this. Like, yeah, no shit.
Examples of libs of TikTok or whatever compelling. Think about these powers being used by someone like Donald Trump, that, is untrustworthy in terms of his sort of authoritarian tendencies, and what someone with those inclinations could also do against their own ideological foes. Some of the reporting suggests that, again, this sort of like deep state apparatus, who they're going to go after, who they're going to track, who they're going to...
I hate the phrase deep state. I just want to say that now. I fucking hate the phrase deep state.
Surveil, who they're going to consider enemies. Some of that started to be set up under Trump, and then the Biden administration takes it and turns it towards the people that they see as political adversaries. That's why I think it's so important to take the ideology.
Remember, the Biden campaign was asking for nudes to not be circulated. That's the censorship that they have a problem with. And those were the tweets and the content that they wanted censored and removed. Nudes. That's what this is all about.
Out of this and recognize that this sort of power, total lack of transparency, it really is an authoritarian type of system, and this evil collaboration between the government and these social media tech companies that have so much power in terms of our entire democratic infrastructure. Everybody should be really troubled by this part, and I do think that this is, the most important piece that we've seen come out of it. It is confirming what the little glimpses that we've already gotten of the way that this collaboration happens. We already know that these...
Here's the problem. She's saying that through the glimpses that we've seen, it has created a problem. Would you like to know what the problem it has created, as far as the American public is aware of? Go online, go on Twitter, go really anywhere and ask people about the Twitter files and all the rest of the stuff. And you know what they're going to say to you? They're going to say to you, oh man, I'm so happy my man, Daddy Elon, rolled up in Twitter, took over, took the kitchen sink with him, fucking kicked all those woke liberals. Notice that part. And like, you know, removed all them, and now he's given us the information. And look at that. Libs of TikTok. All these right-wing accounts that Twitter has been censoring, has been putting the brakes on, has been reducing their ability to spread their message. Man, we always knew that it was that we were the ones being targeted. That the right was always the victims in all of this. That's what people are gonna say. That's what most people are going to say, like, oh yeah, the Twitter files, they're all about revealing the left-wing bias of Twitter. And the what's the word, the campaign that has been waged against conservatives on Twitter, even though there's been no evidence of that. But we'll find out. I'll read the rest of them. But as far as what they're talking about, it's nothing. Right-wingers, conservatives, break TOS more often. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you guys. You guys break the rules more often. You guys constantly go against TOS, constantly post shit you're not supposed to, and then you turn around and go, see, look, it's because I'm a conservative. No, it's because your rhetoric and because the way that conservatives engage in politics is why they end up catching the gavel more often than liberals. It's very simple. Liberals do not spend their time going on Twitter and harassing trans people, or gay people, or black people, or conservatives, quite frankly. Liberals have no fucking interest in conservatives. None whatsoever. I'm a leftist. I'm a progressive. If the conservatives weren't around to stir shit up, I wouldn't even be here. None of us would be constantly having to engage in discourse. But the right is always constantly, and this goes back to their reactionary politics, bitching and moaning about something. So yeah, you stir shit, you get hit. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Be less TOS breaky, I guess. Fuck's sake. Like this isn't a conspiracy because they're conservative. You're seeing a bias because conservatives have earned their bias. Or that bias, sorry. Just fucking Christ. And is it not obvious that Elon only releases stuff that seem to go to favor one end? Like, is that not obvious? Like Crystal Ball's been doing politics a lot longer than I have. And for her to not realize that the curating of information is almost, if not as important as the actual information you're divulging. Like what you choose to actually put out there is incredibly important, especially when there's a broader narrative that one side has been trying to push.
Tech companies also collaborate with other governments like Israel, for example. Israel's very active at flagging Palestinian activists that they think are out of bounds and need to be censored or taken down as well. So it really is an issue for us going forward as a society. There's just no doubt about it.
Let that be the takeaway. And look, it also shows you this is going on at all the other social media companies. The only reason we know it is because Elon, spent $44 billion of his own money and apparently doesn't care necessarily about recouping that investment, although we'll see how that goes.
Hey, guys.
We'll see how that goes. It's not like, okay, sure. You know the thing? You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.